Welcome back to another one of my videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lotta, and today I'm going to show you how to make this poppy seed marzipan cake with cherries. Now, I've used a picture of this cake as my profile picture, but I've never actually showed you how to make it. So without further ado, let's get to making this cake. So this cake has three things. It's got a poppy seed sponge cake, a cream filling, which is just whipped cream, and a cherry filling. And of course, it has the marzipan on top, which is the best part because as you let it sit, it gets really soft from the cream and it kind of becomes one with the whipped cream, but you still get that almondy taste, but it's super soft. It's just the best. Now, the first thing we need to make is the sponge cake, so let's get that started. Now, the first thing we're going to make is our sponge cake. So for that, you're going to need 4 room temperature eggs, a good splash of vanilla extract, 125 grams of sugar with a good pinch of salt, 125 grams of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 25 grams of poppy seeds. Now, I've made a whole video on my channel before on how I take you through step by step on how I make my sponge cake, as well as some tips and tricks. So if you want to see that, you can watch it up there. But essentially, all we're going to do is we're going to whisk together our eggs, sugar, salt, and vanilla until it's super light and fluffy and doubled in size before we sieve in our dry ingredients and fold that all together. This can wander into the oven that's been preheated to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit for around 30 to 40 minutes. You just want to make sure that the top is golden brown and that it's cooked through. Now for the filling, you're going to need 1 glass of sour pitted cherries, 30 grams each of sugar and cornstarch, 1 pinch of salt, and the juice of 1 lemon. We'll start by just draining our cherries. If you want to save any cherries for the decorations, this is the time to take a couple out. At this point, we can add the rest of our ingredients into our pot and give it 1 quick whisk. We're going to heat this up on medium-high heat until it comes to a nice boil. You want to boil this for about a minute, and what's going to happen is your mixture is going to be a lot more clear and it's going to thicken up, which is exactly how you want it. We're going to fold this into our cherries and then give it 1 good mix. We're going to set this aside to cool while we make our other filling. Now, while it cools, you want to make sure to give it a mix every now and then to make sure that there's no film that forms on the top. Now, the second filling is literally just whipped cream. So we're going to use 500 milliliters of heavy whipping cream, 30 grams of sugar, and of course a good splash of vanilla extract. And we're just going to whip that up until we have some nice stiff peaks. Now at this point we can get to layering our cake. So our sponge cake is already cooled off and I've cut it into 3 even-ish layers. Our cherries are also cooled off and our whipping cream is in a piping bag with a really simple round tip. All I'm going to do is pipe a ring of whipped cream on the outside to act as a border for our cherries that are going to go into the middle. And we're going to do that with both layers. I'm going to chill this for 30 to 60 minutes to let everything set a little bit before I do my crumb coat and finish decorating. While the cake is cooling, we can get to prepping our decorations. So the first thing we're going to do is get our marzipan ready. Now there's 2 ways that you can decorate this cake. You can either cover the whole cake in a blanket of marzipan, or you can just cover the top, which is what I'm going to do. A, it's easier, and B, you need less marzipan. So you're going to want between 100 and 300 grams of marzipan. This is 200 and I'm probably not going to need all of it since I'm only doing the top part, but it's easier to roll out a little bit more and have a little bit more wiggle room. If you're planning to cover the whole cake in marzipan, you can treat this like you would fondant. So you're going to roll this out nice and thin, and then after you've covered your cake with your crumb coat, you're going to just lay it over your cake and gently rub it on to make sure you have some nice crisp sides. Now, like fondant, this can also rip if it's too thin or if you're handling it too vigorously. So you just want to be a little bit careful and not roll it out too thin, but thin enough that you can easily get it on the cake. That being said, you want to also use powdered sugar to roll out your marzipan. To make sure my marzipan is the right size for the top of my cake, I'm going to use the tin that I used earlier and slightly press it in. You can use any of your leftover marzipan to either make decorations to go onto the top of your cake, or you can use it to make almond horns like we did in this video. Before we set this aside, we're going to brush off a bit of that powdered sugar just to make it look a little bit nicer. We're going to do a quick crumb coat with the rest of our whipped cream. Now, it doesn't need to be pretty since we're covering the sides and the top anyways. It's just to make sure that everything is covered once in the whipped cream and it's going to act as a glue. At this point, we can gently lay on our marzipan. Try lining it up as best as you can. There. And slightly press it on. Now for the sides of the cake, we're going to use some chocolate shards like this. Now this is 100 grams. I'm most likely not going to use all of it, so you're probably just going to need maybe like 50 grams. Depending on what kind of chocolate you have, you might need more though. So because mine is in these thin little shards, it will cover more surface area, so I'll need less chocolate. If you only have like chocolate sprinkles, you might need a little bit more. And if you're chopping your own chocolate, you might need a little bit more as well. That being said, I like using these plastic cards, and we're basically just going to run these chocolate shards all the way up our cake and around. For the final touches, you're going to need a little bit more whipped cream with the piping tip of your choice, and of course the cherries that we saved earlier. Now you can make any type of design on the top that you want. I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. And there you have it. The cherry poppy seed marzipan cake is all done. Now remember, you can decorate this cake however you want, and you can use it for a bunch of different holidays. For Easter, for instance, you can make a little bunny out of the leftover marzipan, or for Christmas, you can make little trees or pine cones or whatever your heart desires. And you also don't need to make a cherry filling. I've made a raspberry filling before, and you can use basically anything that you want, so it's super versatile. So that's going to be everything for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, you can give it a thumbs up or write me a comment down below. And as always, the whole recipe is going to be in the description box as well.